Hey, good afternoon, class. All right, let's get right into it. Module 4 discussion. So, first question, consider current organizations right now. Given the state of organizations as you understand them, what are the three most pressing questions or problems facing organizations? How do the four approaches to theorizing organizational issues help us frame how we answer these questions, and what other issues interact with, compound, complicate, or limit the kinds of answers we are likely to receive? So I'm kind of jump around here. The three questions: how we think about the nature of being, do we think the organization is having its own existence, and own behaviors that continue independently of the various managers and employees who come and go over the time. So that's like ontology. That's page 144, 145. The definition itself is on 145. So these are how the things come to known, which is epistemology. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that one, or the next one. Last question is that we believe what is worth knowing. So that's axiology. And what are we doing to be influenced by the final result, or for what is found? So the four approaches that basically give us the perspective on how the theory should be collected for data and the approach behind them is how researchers should take those notes. Basically, observation to lead. You can use observation to lead to results. You can interpret mindset for results, determining dominant interests, communications and actions for research, and last is to be determined using results for like you're observing, so you're understanding like that the organization is just verbatim, so you can tell that it's like a text definition. You can read them like a book, So that's kind of how the text explains it. They're a text, and you can read them. So, so like the last part of this question, what other issues interact and compound, complicate, or limit the answers we are likely to receive? So for the postmodern approach, page 159, the authors talk about how they can find discourse information by seeing the organizational knowledge is rendering on its own terms and interpretations seem unnatural. So basically, if the results just seem like they're skewed or some information there, they feel like that's how they can come apart that complication or compounding answers that are likely to receive. However, beliefs, power, organizations themselves can all skew results as well and complicate things. So, next question. Discuss your personal ontology, how things exist, whatever, how things are known, and what is worth knowing. Apply it to an organizational communication questions you are or have struggled with now or in the past. So, for the past for me, within the last organization, which was the Marine Corps, I'm going to say for my ontology, one of the things is how did the nature of the organization determine why military members were not seen in? So why were the retention rates so low? Was my ontology for that? Was it the Marine Corps itself, or was it the people in the Marine Corps being so negative to one another, or was it just more of like the higher ups and stuff? So maybe the organization itself just didn't have benefits outweighing the retention. Like, let's say when you when you re-enlist, you get paid, you get that compensation for re-signing, you get a bonus. So maybe that's too low now. So, and how did I come up for epistemology? That's how I'm going to pronounce it. How did I come up with my answer for why Marines are leaving? This was basically like how things are known. Like how did I know that Marines were not where the retention rates were so low? So basically, I knew this because it was so predominant. Like it was so obvious that people were leaving. I had buddies just constantly leaving the Marine Corps, higher ups or people just above me leaving the Marine Corps and not actually re-enlisting. So I knew very little amount of people re-enlisting. I knew a lot of people entering the Marine Corps. That had a lot of subordinates, but not as many higher individuals as you would think. So, and for my last one, what is worth knowing? So for this, as the book says, like, did my research, did my view and my results kind of influence my judgment? With the discovery of my recent research when I was in the Marines and them leaving, it definitely impacted my future because I left as well. I realized that when I found my result, not only did the bonus for re-enlisting go down, but as just the higher ups were changing the way that they conduct things, and generals constantly changing the rules. And if you have tattoos, you're just one of those. I'm gonna cuss, but you're a shitbag, So it is what it is. But that's kind of how I came up with those. So, and that was me applying it. And then that was explaining each of the concepts as they relate to how I understand them. And that was all on page 145 for the 3 examples. In what ways, so the next question, in what ways do sense making and structuration help you understand problems faced in modern organizations? Pick an example. So my example, I chose GameStop. I'll explain here in a second. Let's see. And yeah, so GameStop. I believe the way people make sense of their organizations is by asking themselves, what are we doing here? Like, are we here to make money? What is our end goal? So most organizations is to make money. I mean, you have nonprofit organizations as well, but those are like charity cases to help others. And then for those nonprofit, they're going to be like, well, how can we do this legally? So it's going to be kind of one of the things brought up in the book. And that's on page 186. So knowing this background, and the last one, what are we doing to make money? Like, what is our end goal here? And knowing this background creates the structure behind them and helps them create the interrelationship between practices. So GameStop, it's decline. It's been declining pretty bad. I don't know if a lot of people watch the news. There's been a lot of articles over the last couple of months about its stock dropping a lot of points. I don't know the exact details. I did look it up, but I forgot already, and I didn't put it in my notes. But its stock dropped pretty drastic. I think it's like $9 a share now, which is down something like 40 points. So it's pretty low. But it continues to decline, and this is because they refuse to take advice from outside sources that are trying to help them maybe reapproach new things, and their services to online, instead of they're trying to keep and create incentives for people to come into their store, but a lot of millennials now don't they don't tend to leave the house very often. So they're like, not homesick, but housebound, I guess, or there's a term for it. I can't think of it right now. And so they just don't want to leave the store, and they don't think the incentives create, enough bonus for them to go to that store. And game like consoles right now also just do online downloads. So if GameStop did something like, kind of like Netflix, where you could download GameStop as an app and then buy games from GameStop instead of using the Xbox Microsoft Store or the PlayStation Network, that actually probably would free up their stock and increase revenue for them once again. So, but since they're not using that structure and they're not changing their way or their nature, it's causing a decline. And last question, using the material from chapter 4, break down the video lecture you watched. How do the ideas presented reflect or fit into this week's material? What is Bob's ontological whatever perspective. I cannot pronounce them. So the idea presented by Bob was how some bosses are assholes. Again, the language. However, a lot of the individuals that buy his book are bosses trying to become better bosses, is what he mentioned in his video. A lot of those bosses want to be better. They want to work on themselves. They know that maybe they are an asshole, so they won't want to, or they want to prevent becoming an asshole. The other, one of the things he mentions is they either have too much power, so they're power poisoning, or they're really assertive, and they need to back off. So this is kind of one of the two big topics that he talks about for a little bit, and how the rules don't apply to the bosses, essentially. So his perspectives for Bob was like, why am I losing workers? What can I do to improve not to lose employees? And what are my goals with those workers that I retain, or which ones can I let go, basically. So the ones that why am I losing workers was because, his bosses are being an asshole. Is it him, or is it the nature of the company, and etc. So, and I put in my notes a quote from the 20-minute, 12-second video mark, but I actually didn't write the quote in here, so I'm not going to say it. But I had a quote, just forgot to write it. And another point Bob brings up is bosses being able to lay out a framework or structure for employees to reach out big, hairy goals. I thought that was a good one. So, thanks for watching my video, and see you guys in class tomorrow.